Only on Fox tonight, was a U.S. border agent killed by friendly fire, or was he part of a shootout with illegal drug smugglers?
This all stems from a case dating back to October of 2012. Border Patrol agents were approaching a hilltop south of Bisbee, Arizona, approaching from different directions when gunfire broke out, and Border Patrol agent Nicholas Ivy was killed. But was his death an accident, a friendly fire incident, as the government claims, or was it a shootout with illegal drug smugglers covered up by the Obama White House just days before the 2012 election?
On the night of October the 2nd, 2012, electronic sensor went off 2 or 3 miles north of the border in the area of Paul Spur, and 3 Border Patrol agents responded to the scene.
The Border Patrol motion sensor someone tripped was on this hilltop just a few miles south of Bisbee. The one agent approaching from the north was Nicholas Ivy.
When he got to the top of that hill, he was in communication via radio with the other 2 agents.
It was 1 a.m., but there was a full moon, and the 2 agents approaching from the south signaled Ivy with their flashlights. He signaled back.
Gunfire erupted, and in the aftermath as a result of that, Nick Ivy, the agent walking in from the north, lost his life.
Ed Ashurst is a Bisbee area rancher. He's one of the area's best-known cattlemen, and he's also an author. Retelling the death of Border Patrol agent Nicholas Ivy is part of his latest book, Alligators in the Moat.
Nick Ivy lost his life. He was a great guy, a family man, etc., etc. But the truth is, he fired at shadows, fired for no reason.
That's the government's line. 2 days after the shooting, then Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano and former Border Patrol Deputy Commissioner David Aguilar visited Ivy's family in Sierra Vista.
They were at Nick Ivy's door in less than 48 hours telling his widow that Nick Ivy, he was a great guy, wonderful guy, we're so sorry for your loss, but basically he was an amateur, a rookie, a moron who shot at a shadow for no reason.
Ashurst doesn't buy it. He and many others think the Border Patrol agents stumbled upon a drug smuggling operation, and it was the smugglers who opened fire first.
The truth is, there were outlaws shooting at him.
The government never released an official report, but told family members that Ivy opened fire on his 2 fellow Border Patrol agents approaching the same hill, claiming there was no one else on the mountain that night. The federal government said it was a case of friendly fire.
It doesn't matter to me if a Border Patrol agent killed him. What matters is Nick Ivy's wife and brothers and children were told by Napolitano and Aguilar that Nick opened up fire with a firearm for absolutely no reason.
Ashurst based his claims on this report, a narrative from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office. A sheriff sergeant writes that he was witness to the interrogation of a female border agent that night.
She heard multiple voices, Spanish-speaking individuals, and she saw several bodies, at least 3 or 4, walking south toward Mexico.
The sergeant also reported seeing blood drops, indicating the source was moving down the hill to the south toward Mexico. Fresh blood was also found on 3 plastic drink bottles and other items consistent with a smuggling route bed-down area.
There were outlaws here. There was gunfire from outlaws. Nick Ivy was involved in a gunfight with outlaws who were armed with firearms.
As a leader, I think it's very important to work with our partners. It's a failure if we don't.
Mark Daniels is the Cochise County Sheriff. He was not sheriff at the time Nick Ivy was shot and killed. Neither was his predecessor, Larry Deaver, who died a few weeks before in a car crash. But Daniels knows about drug smuggling. These are photos from the Cochise County Sheriff's Department of so-called drug mules caught on motion sensor cameras.
Last week we had a home invasion. 3 in the morning, people in their house sleeping, and you got illegals ransacking it. Why they're in there sleeping?
Daniels also knows about the Ivy case and says the reports filed by his department are reliable.
Yes, quality of work, quality of service. So we push for that hard.
The federal agencies that investigated Ivy's death were never heard from.
We never got the federal reports on this. I'll just let you know right now. We look into it. We don't have the reports.
Again, Daniels was not sheriff at the time Ivy was killed, but about that night, he did say,
they're out there on a smuggler trail. That's a fact. They're out there chasing smugglers. That's a fact. Near the border. And shots went out.
Fox 10 reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for any report or comment on the Ivy investigation. We have yet to get a response. However, we did hear from a Border Patrol agent off camera. He knew of the case, he knows the area where Ivy was killed, and he knew Ivy. He told us the agents were talking on their radios and using their flashlights, that there was no reason for Ivy to get his hair up and open fire, saying Nick Ivy was an experienced, cool-headed officer, and that Nick would not have gotten spooked and opened fire. No way. Dave Shapiro is a Bisbee attorney. He sat in on our conversation with the Border Patrol agent and was impressed with the agent's knowledge of the situation.
He obviously is quite knowledgeable. He knew Nick Ivy. He knows the tactics that are used.
It's just a bunch of lies, and it's politics. That's all. It's politics.
To understand why Ashurst and others believe the government kept the truth about Ivy's death under wraps, you have to go back a few weeks before Ivy was killed. 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya, were killed in a terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. That incident sparked a scandal over White House attempts to blame it on a spontaneous demonstration.
Obama did not need another scandal.
And the death of a border agent in Arizona just weeks before Obama's re-election went against the administration's claims that the border was secure.
It was almost the election. His narrative, Napolitano's dialogue from the get-go was always the border is safer than ever. The whole thing is just stinks like a fish.
Whether or not Nicholas Ivy was killed by friendly fire in an accidental shooting with 2 other border agents or part of a larger shootout involving Mexican drug smugglers, we may never know, unless federal officers who investigated the case come forward with answers.
That is the thing that really is disgusting to me, is how the federal government at the highest level will take an individual who is trying to serve his country in an honorable way, doing his job at a very high scale of professionalism, and they make him look like an idiot. They put him in his grave telling lies. They will not tell the truth for the simple reason they want to save their butt and promote their specific political agenda, whatever that might be.
Fox 10, by the way, also reached out to Janet Napolitano and former Border Patrol Chief David Aguilar. We have yet to get a reply. The 2 U.S. Border Patrol agents involved in the Ivy shooting were both reassigned within days after that shooting, and their names have never been released. Their current assignments unknown, and they've never talked to the media about what happened that night.